Discover the miraculous truth of the Nephilim, 40 days of divine revelation and transforming faith, in the antediluvian era, a time when the earth was filled with violence and wickedness, as recorded in Genesis 6 verses 1-4, the sons of God mingled with the daughters of men, leading to the birth of the Nephilim, mighty men who were infamous for their deeds. Amidst this moral decay, there was Noah, a righteous man who walked with God. He found favor in the eyes of the Almighty. While the world around him was consumed by chaos and disbelief, Noah labored tirelessly under the relentless sun, constructing an enormous vessel that the townsfolk viewed with scornful laughter and derision. Their light-hearted jests rang hollow against the heavy weight of divine revelation that Noah had received. The air thick with despair only heightened his resolve. With each timber he set into place, the vision of a flood that would cleanse the earth grew more pronounced in his heart. As the sounds of revelry and corruption filled the streets beneath him, Noah sought out the hills, where the divine whispers first reached his soul. Nestled among the lush greenery that spoke of a time blessed by God, he paused for prayer, lifting his voice to the Almighty. It was in this sacred silence that the profound command came to him, to build an ark, a great tabernacle of wood that would save not only his family but also the remnants of creation from impending judgment. For days that melted into nights, the steady rhythm of his hammer echoed through the valley, a call to faith in the face of overwhelming doubt. Noah's sons, sharing their father's conviction yet grappling with the enormity of the task, joined him in eager obedience. With every piece they fit together, the laughter from their neighbors crescendoed, a mocking chorus that drowned out their cries of faith. Yet, Noah pressed on, the promise of salvation driving him even when solitude threatened to engulf their spirits. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful stories from Scripture. Hit the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share it with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed by how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As 40 days of labor unfolded, the heavens darkened, a mirror reflecting the corruption engulfing the earth. With every swing of the hammer, Noah's resolve fortified while the gnawing fear of rejection weighed heavily upon him. He was aware that this work was far more than merely a vessel. It was a testament to unwavering faith, a demonstration of divine obedience in a world that had strayed far from the path of righteousness. The first raindrop fell, igniting within Noah a flicker of urgency and hope. Had he truly heard the voice of the Eternal One? As the earth began to tremble under the weight of the heavens opening, Noah lifted his gaze in fervent prayer, wrestling with the promise that shone through the tumult. The storm of his spirit mingled with the storm of nature, leading him ever closer to the crescendo of God's divine plan. Could one man's steadfast faith alter the course of history and fulfill the divine prophecy set before him? The coming deluge would soon answer this profound question, as creation awaited its reckoning in the hands of the Most High. And it came to pass, as the first drops of rain fell, building quickly from gentle patter to a torrential downpour, that Noah witnessed the mocking faces of wicked men turn to confusion and then to fear. The laughter that had filled the air began to be drowned out by the roaring wind and the rising waters. Yet Noah stood firm, for his heart was steadfast in the covenant promise of the Lord. As the rains continued without respite, the ground became a treacherous expanse, swallowing the lowlands and creeping up the hills. Those who had once scorned Noah flocked to the great ark, their hearts gripped by dread. "Noah, let us in. We believed you now," they shouted, their pleas echoing in the midst of the fury unleashed by the Almighty. But the door of the ark was sealed by divine hands, just as it had been instructed, and Noah's heart was heavy for the fate of the souls outside. For he remembered well the words of the Lord, "My spirit shall not strive with man forever," Genesis 6 verse 3. There was a grievous finality in the judgment that had been decreed against a people lost in their sins, and the weight of their choices pressed upon Noah's soul. Within the ark, the animals stirred in pairs, their presence a reminder of God's creation, a sign of hope amid despair. Noah offered fervent prayers of intercession on behalf of all who had been called to repentance, yet remained in their folly. In his heart, he agonized for each life cast away in disbelief, knowing that the door of mercy had now closed. As the waters surged higher, Noah felt the movement of the ark, the great vessel that had been his labor and obedience, beneath him. It rocked upon the waves, lifted by the growing torrents of divine judgment. Each creak of the wood echoed a symphony of praise in the stillness of salvation, and Noah's faith was tested to its core. The days turned into nights, and the darkness of the storm raged on. But the Lord had not forgotten Noah. In the midst of the flood, he remembered his servant. For just as Noah had found favor in his eyes, Genesis 6 verse 8, so too did the Lord protect him and provide an unshakable faith that fortified his spirit against despair. In that time of great tumult, God spoke to Noah, saying, I shall bring a new covenant, a promise of restoration and redemption. Not only will I save you and your family, but from you shall arise a new beginning for all of creation. Genesis 9 verses 8-9. Noah embraced the mantle of this new covenant, his heart soaring with the understanding that even amid the purge of wickedness, the sovereign hand of God was weaving a tapestry of salvation for future generations. The flood would pass, but the legacy of faith anchored in the ark would carry forth. As the waters continue to rise, they would reveal the depths of human depravity, yet also the depths of divine mercy. And so, the moment drew near when the Lord would establish a new promise in the earth. What awaited beyond the rising waves, and what hope lay in the remnants of the faithful? The dawn of a new covenant awaited, shrouded in divine mystery, echoing with the promise of restoration yet unfulfilled. As the storm raged, the great ark, a bulwark against despair, was lifted high upon the wrathful waves. The rains fell steadily for 40 days and 40 nights, encompassing the earth in a deluge that obscured the very heavens above. Each drop was a testament to the Creator's wrath upon the wickedness of man, for the heart of humanity was set on evil continually. Genesis 6 verse 5. Inside the ark, Noah's family sought solace in each other's presence, their faith intermingling with the deep rumblings of the storm. They gathered together, recalling the promises of God, speaking of his great mercy as the sounds of destruction echoed outside. Their hearts were anchored in hope, for they knew that the Lord had spoken, I will establish my covenant with you. Genesis 6 verse 18. With trembling hands, Noah offered sacrifices of praise before the Lord, his heart full of trust in the Almighty One. As the waters rose, threatening to consume everything in their path, Noah's mind wandered to the future, the new beginnings that God had promised. Could it be that beyond this tempest lay a world reformed, a creation unmarred by sin? His spirit stirred within him, envisioning the kingdom to come. Then, as the tumult continued, a solemn stillness enveloped the ark one evening. The raging winds and the crashing waters became faint whispers, and Noah sensed the presence of God within the vessel. Noah, listen, spoke the voice of Yahweh like a gentle embrace amidst chaos. You are chosen to perpetuate a lineage that shall witness miracles and forge a covenant with my people forever. Noah listened intently, the weight of the world pressing upon him, and a vision unfolded. His sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, would carry forth the seeds of righteousness. Yet alongside them would rise giants, mighty beings born of the union between the sons of God and the daughters of men, known as the Nephilim. Genesis 6 verse 4. They would be both a marvel and a warning, for their strength would tempt man toward greater folly. The revelation filled Noah's heart with a blend of awe and fear. How, O Lord, can this be? He implored. What is your purpose in this? God declared with authority, in the fullness of time, through a line that you shall preserve, I will raise a Redeemer who shall crush the serpent's head. Genesis 3 verse 15. The Nephilim will serve as reminders of the consequences of straying from my ways, yet they shall not thwart my sovereign plan. Noah rose in reverence, understanding the gravity of his role. His lineage would be under siege but would ultimately lead to the one who would bring restoration. Each day passing inside the ark was a day closer to the manifestation of this promise, yet a day of uncertainty, for the fate of the earth hung in the balance. As the waters continued to rise, a glimmer of light pierced the horizon. Noah turned his gaze upward, aware that the dawn of God's promise was not merely of preservation, but of transformation. What shall be, my Lord? He questioned, and as the waters stirred, a new revelation rang forth that echoed in his heart. The moment has come for my creation to be reborn through my covenant. I will gather my people, and through them I will restore all that has been lost. With faith bolstered and a spirit ignited, Noah awaited the fulfillment of God's sovereign plan, one measured not just in days and nights but in epochs of divine revelation. The mystery remaining revealed a greater truth: the journey of life would continue, woven through the struggles of the Nephilim, and reaching toward the divine promise yet to unfold. The waters, a vast, churning ocean of despair, pressed heavily upon the ark, swelling with the weight of divine judgment. Yet, within those sturdy walls, a sanctuary flourished. The family of Noah stood unified, fortified by the promise of the Lord that rang through the shadows of their adversity. Days turned into weeks, and the echoes of the storm persisted like the ticking of a relentless clock. As the sun rose and descended, the sky obscured by thick clouds, Noah sought guidance once more, casting his eyes toward heaven and praying fervently, "O Lord, reveal to me the depths of your will." In response, a still small voice reached him amidst the turmoil, whispering through the creaking timbers of their refuge. "Noah, I see the faithfulness of your heart. Take courage, for you shall witness my hand at work in ways both profound and mysterious." Encouraged, Noah gathered his family together. In the dim light of the ark, each face reflected a blend of dread and anticipation. "My beloved ones," he began, his voice steady but laced with a reverent urgency, "the Lord has spoken. We are instruments of his promise, destined to usher in a new era birthed from the ashes of this flooding desolation." Shem, ever wise, asked, "But Father, how do we begin again? The earth will be barren, void of life." Noah placed a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder. "Indeed, it may seem so now. Yet the Lord has assured me that his plans are for restoration. He shall provide us the means to sow anew, even from the remnants of this storm." As the days extended into the depths of the fourth week, a strange quietude enveloped the ark, the drumming of rain softened, and the light seemed to beckon through the veil of clouds. Noah, feeling the weight of anticipation, sent forth a raven to tether a message to the distant shores. It flew out into the unknown, returning only to report the barren desolation beyond. Then, on the 8th day of the new month, he released a dove into the skies. The creature soared, its wings whispering hymns of hope, and returned bearing an olive branch, a symbol of peace and promise from the Creator. Genesis 8 verse 11. With tears in his eyes, Noah cried, "The earth has begun to heal. Our God is faithful. He shall restore his creation." The family erupted in joyful praise, their voices mingling in a sacred melody of thanks. "Let us prepare ourselves," Noah instructed, "for soon we will step forth into a world reclaimed, a canvas renewed by God's own hand." Yet, even amidst the jubilation, a weight lingered in Noah's heart. He remembered the words of God about the giants to come, the Nephilim, and the chaos that could follow. "We must tread wisely, my family," he cautioned. "For the remnants of the past may yet haunt the dawn of our future." Days rolled on, and with each passing hour, the waters began to recede, revealing the first glimpses of land. Yet for every wave of promise, doubts wrestled in Noah's mind. What fruit would their efforts bear? How would they guard themselves against the perils ahead? As the ark finally came to rest upon the mountaintops of Ararat, Noah's heart was stirred with a deeper understanding. This journey was not merely through floodwaters, but through the very passage of my soul. Emerging from the ark, surrounded by the remnants of their trials, Noah felt the breath of God whisper again through the air, "Watch closely, for the covenant of the rainbow is but the prelude to greater wonders. A day shall come when lineage shall battle against the dark, and the Son of Man shall triumph over all." With the land still shrouded in mystery and many challenges yet to unfold, Noah gazed upon the horizon. What awaited them still was veiled, a divine undertaking waiting to burst forth with life and renewal. Thus he knew, their journey had merely begun, an adventure toward the fulfillment of a promise that resided not only in their survival but in the restoration of all creation. As the remnants of the flood settled into silence, the air grew still, and a sacred sense of expectation enveloped Noah and his family. The ark stood as a mighty fortress upon the mountaintops of Ararat, yet the sight of the sun casting its warm light upon the earth unleashed both wonder and apprehension within Noah's heart. "Behold," he proclaimed, his voice echoing against the stillness, "the Lord has brought us through. The earth lies before us, waiting to be renewed. Let us give thanks and prepare our hearts for the tasks that lie ahead. Around him, his family knelt, echoing fervent prayers of thanksgiving to the Most High. They honored him for his deliverance and for the promise that the waters would not destroy all flesh again. It was in this sacred moment that the Lord spoke once more to Noah, a divine assurance echoing through his spirit. "You shall be fruitful and multiply, and you shall fill the earth," the voice resounded, reverberating with heavenly authority. Genesis 9 verse 1, Noah raised his eyes to the billowing clouds drifting away, revealing a world cleansed by judgment, mercifully restored. With renewed vigor, he turned to his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. "Let us establish a new covenant with our God, for he has done wondrous things. When the seasons return, we shall remind our descendants of his mighty works." Once the family had exited the ark onto the firm ground, Noah could not help but be filled with awe. The desolate landscape was gradually adorned with budding flowers, emerging life creeping forth from the soil as the hope of a new world ignited in his heart. He beheld the fresh earth with reverence as though a blank canvas awaited the strokes of divine creation, a fundamental re-establishment of purpose. Yet as he surveyed this rebirth, the words of the Lord concerning giants and the Nephilim returned to his mind, stirring unease. "We must remain vigilant," he reminded his sons, "for while God's judgment is painful, our heart must align to his purposes to ward off the darkness that could once more take root." In the days that followed, Noah embarked on the task of planting seeds, etching fresh beginnings into the soil, all the while pouring out the knowledge of God upon his family, teaching them his ways. He encouraged each of them, letting them know that the true essence of their legacy would not simply lie in their physical survival but in their spiritual formation and their dedication to the ways of the Almighty. One evening, as the sun dipped low in the sky, painting the horizon with hues of gold and crimson, Noah gathered his family around him. "Let us build an altar unto our Lord," he declared with a heartfelt urgency, Genesis 8 verse 20. The family obeyed, collecting stones and uniting their efforts. Together, they erected a monument of worship, a testimony of gratitude for the faithfulness that led them through the storms. No sooner had the flames been kindled than the sweet aroma of the sacrifice arose to heaven. Then, the voice of the Lord cascaded down upon them, "This is a sign of my everlasting covenant with you and all living creatures upon the earth," he declared, instating the promise of the rainbow, a magnificent reminder of grace amidst judgment, Genesis 9 verses 13 to 15. But amidst this sacred assurance, a looming shadow lingered. Noah recalled the warnings whispered to him amidst the tumult of the flood. As the glimmer of the rainbow brightened in the sky, he sensed a stirring in the unseen, a whisper of a future fraught with trials, shadows of the giants yet to emerge. "Prepare, O my sons," he commanded. "For the world will test the waves of righteousness, and the battle of faith shall wage on." With a heavy heart and a resolute spirit, Noah understood that their journey contained more than survival. It was a charge to walk in covenantal faith through future struggles. Thus, in that moment of deep contemplation, the promise once again flickered in Noah's soul. A revelation of God's redemptive plan was unfurling. But the dawn of a new era was undoubtedly clouded with mystery. What shall become of my lineage? Who will withstand the trials ahead? As the flames danced against the night sky, the echoing promise summoned him to understand that God's sovereign plan was still unfurling, and the legacy of their faith would wander into unfathomable depths yet unseen. And it came to pass that as Noah and his family began to inhabit the renewed earth, the days turned to weeks, and their labor in the soil brought forth much fruit. The whispers of creation resonated through the air, and the sound of livestock filled the once desolate valleys, now alive with myriad wonders. Noah took his place as a patriarch, leading his family in the ways of the Lord. He instilled within them reverence for God's creation and spoke often of the covenant established through the rainbow. Yet, beneath the surface of their rejuvenated lives, he could not shake the foreboding sense of the trials to come. The warning of giants weighed heavily upon his heart, a dark foreshadowing of the struggles yet to unfold in this land. One day, while tending to the vineyard he had planted, Noah found himself lost in thought. The vines twisted and climbed, bearing promise of rich harvest, yet in the depths of his spirit, uneasiness churned. "Almighty God," he whispered, his heart laid bare before him, "reveal thy truth and prepare our hearts for what lies ahead." That evening as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows long and deep, a peculiar vision seized Noah. He beheld a great figure emerging from the mist, towering and fierce, shrouded in the aura of forgotten legends. The ground trembled beneath his presence as Noah instinctively fell to his knees. The being raised its hand, and in that moment, Noah was filled with dread yet moved with reverence. "Fear not, son of Lamech," the voice echoed, deep and powerful. "For the mysteries of the ages shall unfold before you. Know this, the path you tread is laden with darkness that seeks to engulf the light. The descendants of men shall once again consort with the forces of wickedness, and in this, giants shall arise from the depths." Noah's heart raced as he comprehended the gravity of the words spoken to him. "What is it that I must do, O Mighty One?" he implored, his voice trembling yet resolute. "Stand firm in the ways of the Lord. Teach your children to walk in righteousness, guiding them in the decrees of the Most High. For amid the darkness, a remnant shall emerge that will walk in the light and bear witness to the covenant established. They will be the warriors of faith, holding true to the promises made for your lineage." As the vision faded, Noah grasped the weight of his calling. He gathered his family, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames of the evening fire. "Beloved ones," he began, "the future will bring challenges, but we shall not falter. We are called to be a light in the shadow of giants. Rise up, stand strong, for the Lord has set our lineage apart." His sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth exchanged solemn glances, their resolve strengthening under the weight of Noah's words. They too bowed their heads, united in purpose, while their wives and children joined in fervent prayer, a bond of faith knitting their spirits together. Days turned into seasons, and as the earth flourished, Noah continued in vigilant dedication. Time and again, he shared with his family the importance of hope and redemption, a narrative intertwined deeply with a promise that God was always present, even in the silence of the coming storm. Yet deep in the heart of the earth, whispers of wickedness began to coil like the creeping vines of his vineyard. There was talk among the people, legends shared in hushed tones of shadows roaming the night, of beings that walked upright, fierce and demanding. A sense of foreboding crept through the land, rippling like the distant thunder that heralded a storm. Noah gazed upon the horizon with fervent anticipation, recognizing that the dawn of the unfamiliar was near. Little did he know, the time was drawing close when the lineage he had so fervently protected would face trials that would awaken the true essence of their faith. And so God's sovereign plan continued to unfold, a divine tapestry of grace, filled with threads of redemption and challenge. Would they rise to meet it, or would the shadows once again spread across the earth, seeking to envelop the hope that had been so carefully restored? The answers loomed in the distance, waiting for the moments when their legacy would intertwine forever with divine destiny. And it came to pass that as the seasons turned, darkness began to creep forth from the corners of the land. Whispers grew louder among the children of men, tales of great beings whose stature rivaled mountains and whose hearts were set against the ways of the Lord. The fear of giants lodged itself in the hearts of the people, causing division and doubt where hope once thrived. Noah, steadfast and unyielding, sought the Lord in fervent prayer. He would often retreat to the heights of the mountains, peering out across the expanse of the earth, seeking clarity from the whisperer of the covenant. "Why, O God, do these shadows loom so near? What is this that has strayed into thy creation?" He beseeched, time and again, that I and the stillness of one such night, while the stars glimmered like diamonds crafted by the hand of God. The Almighty answered. A light brighter than the morning sun encircled Noah, enveloping him in divine warmth. "Noah," the voice resonated like thunder, shaking the very core of creation, "hear my words. The heart of man has turned once more to wickedness, and as it was in the days of ancient, so it shall be again. What must I do, Lord?" Noah implored, the weight of responsibility pressing heavily upon him. "Gather thy household, and do not wait for the wickedness to sweep through your gates," the Lord commanded. "Prepare them, for they will stand as a haven of righteousness amid a generation of unrighteousness. For behold, giants will arise, and their influence shall reach far across the land, seeking to drown the cries of the faithful." Noah's heart sank, yet a flame of courage flickered within. "I shall teach them, Lord, the precepts of your law. We will not be moved from the foundations built upon your promises. Then the Lord spoke again, revealing secrets that had been hidden since the dawn of time. From the union of the sons of God and the daughters of men shall arise the Nephilim, and their deeds shall be great, causing the heart of man to tremble. But remember, Noah, in every trial I shall send a champion to combat the forces of darkness. The remnant of thy lineage shall endure, their faith shall shine bright and bright until the perfect day. With this revelation, Noah descended from the mountain, his spirit bolstered with divine conviction. He gathered his sons and their families, their faces a reflection of the shared understanding. Take heed, beloved ones, he began, urgency surging through his words. For the giants shall come, but our faith shall not falter. We will rise in prayer and proclamation, binding ourselves to God's testament of salvation. In the ensuing days, Noah instructed them to endure, to trust, and to remain vigilant against the encroaching shadows. They united in prayer, their voices a chorus of supplication that rang through the valleys. The land around them held its breath, for the air was thick with anticipation. It was as if creation itself awaited the inevitable confrontation between light and darkness, yet as whispers of the giants grew into roars, fear also took root in the hearts of the surrounding people, and strife spread like wildfire. Noah prayed fervently for wisdom, seeking the heart of God amid the chaos that loomed closer each dawn. Just as the evil seemed overwhelming, a quiet storm brewed in the heart of the faithful. Hope ignited among them, and they bore the torch of truth, proclaiming the covenant that God would never abandon his creation, and in that moment, the heavens revealed a truth hidden from ages past. Fear not the giants, the Lord assured Noah. For I will raise a champion who shall strike the earth with light and truth. For out of the very ones who tremble at the great name shall arise a deliverer, one who will usher in redemption for all nations. Thus, the journey led by Noah became not merely a tale of survival but a prelude to an ultimate confrontation, the ongoing struggle for faith, hope, and divine purpose that would echo throughout generations. Could they withstand the tempest that approached? Would they see the dawn of a new promise, one that eclipsed even the shadows cast by giants? The answer, roiling like the storm clouds above, awaited manifestation in the unfolding plan of the Almighty. And it came to pass that as Noah and his household prayed, a profound sense of urgency permeated the air. The whispers of the giants spread fiercely, like the sound of a great wind rustling through the dry fields, causing the hearts of many to tremble. What shall we do, O Lord? They cried, united in desperation. At that very moment, the Lord spoke, Noah, gather unto you the faithful who remain, for there shall be a great teaching of righteousness. The giants may roar, but my voice shall echo above their cries. Noah, filled with the Spirit, set forth to call upon those who would heed God's command. He sought the faithful in the neighboring towns, imparting words of warning and hope. The time of reckoning is at hand, he declared with a fervent heart. Awake, O people, and prepare yourselves. For the Lord has promised deliverance and has marked a champion for his battle. With every gathering, more came to hear his words. They were drawn not only by fear but by an ever-burning flame of faith ignited within them. Together they built altars of prayer upon the hills, their voices rising like sweet incense to the heavens. O Lord of hosts, they beseeched, do not let our faith waver before the might of the adversary. In each prayer session, Noah imparted wisdom, recounting the stories of old, of faith that withstood the trials of the ages. He spoke of Enoch, who walked with God, and of how faith was counted as righteousness unto Abraham. As the light of the setting sun illuminated their faces, they began to understand that despite the size of their adversaries, their God was greater. Yet stealthily did the giants approach, dark shadows cast across the land, instilling fear once more. Rumors surged through the town's sightings of monstrous figures and the dreadful tales of their terror lingering like the echoes of forgotten nightmares. There was a growing discontent, a falling away from faith, as some began to question the strength of the Lord's promise. Noah, whispered one of his sons, Shem, as an unsettling tension enveloped the camp, what if our prayers do not stave off the giants? What if darkness overwhelms us? No. Noah answered, his voice robust with conviction, we shall not bow before fear, for the light shall surely come. The Lord has sworn by his own name that he will not abandon us. When the enemy appears, we will rise as one and declare his goodness. As Noah and his family continued to prepare, a vision came upon him. He beheld a great storm brewing above the land, black as pitch, stirring with fierce winds. Within the tempest appeared the figure of a warrior, brilliant in armor gleaming as the sun. The revelation struck him with awe. It was the champion the Lord had promised, and he would come to lead them against the giants, but just as swiftly as the vision arrived, it vanished, cloaked in mystery. His heart raced as he turned to his family. Let your faith continue to kindle. For the divine deliverer approaches, and he shall not come empty-handed. As days turned into weeks, Noah felt the weight of expectation. Their gatherings grew larger, and hope intertwined with anxiety as they awaited a testimony of the divine. Each day ratified their endurance, providing assurance that the time was approaching for a great upheaval, a moment when God's promise would resonate through the earth. Then, with the presence of the divine overshadowing them, a hush fell upon the multitude. In the stillness, the very heavens themselves trembled, and a secret whisper issued forth, prepare, for the dawn is near, and with it comes the whisper of a deliverer, whose fame shall span the ages. What form would this champion of light take? Would he rise from among the faithful or manifest in a miraculous manner? The uncertainty echoed in the hearts of the people, as they awaited the fulfillment of the Lord's sovereign promise, leaving them yearning for the arrival of the one who would challenge the very giants of their time. And it came to pass, as the shadows lengthened over the land, the faithful gathered upon the hills, their hearts beating as one. Noah stood before them, a figure of resolute faith, for he perceived that the breath of the Almighty was preparing them for something profound. Brothers and sisters, let us not be dismayed, for even now, the Lord is preparing our hearts for his victory. Gather close and listen to the word of the Lord. The people, their faces aglow with eager expectation, drew near, hanging upon his every word. The giants come not by their own strength, but as instruments of a greater trial, he declared, his voice rising above the murmurs of fear. Look unto the heavens, for the clouds gather not only for tempest but for the manifestation of the Lord's glory. As Noah spoke, a spark ignited within the assembly. A cry echoed through the hills, give us strength, Lord. Together, they chanted prayers, their voices harmonizing like a sweet melody to the ears of their God. Little did they know, the winds were indeed shifting, the divine tide rising against the dark forces that threatened to engulf them. In a vision, Noah beheld the fabric of the heavens. The atmosphere crackled with divine energy, and he saw flashes of light amidst the rumbling clouds. The champion, the warrior clad in radiant armor, loomed again before him, holding a sword that gleamed brighter than the sun. Fear not, Noah, the figure spoke, for the Lord of hosts is coming with you, and this battle is already his. With newfound resolve, Noah declared, he shall not stand alone. Every heart united in faith shall march forward, for our hope is anchored in our God, who delivers his people. Thus, the faithful came together under the banner of courage. They resolved to journey to the valley where the giants amassed, their confidence reflected in the shimmering eyes of their children who watched with wide awe. Even the meek, those who once trembled at the specter of despair, stood strong, filled with the fervor of their ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As they prepared, the earth beneath their feet seemed to tremble in anticipation. The sky swirled above, casting an otherworldly light upon their gathering. Suddenly, from the depths of the valley, a thunderous roar resounded. A challenge issued from the giants themselves. Are the children of men come to meet their doom? The voice was a chill wind, vibrating with malice, yet within the assembly, faith broiled, steeled by divine assurance. The Lord is our shield. They proclaimed in unison. And as they took up their makeshift arms, their spirits soared upon the wings of prayer, and angels likewise prepared to take their stand against the encroaching darkness. In this moment of fervor, Noah raised his hands towards the heavens, and in the depths of his spirit, the word of the Lord whispered to him once more, my covenant shall stand, the promised deliverer is drawing near. Do not falter, for the night is but a veil over the coming dawn. The people became a living echo of this promise, igniting their spirits with fervent prayers, their hearts bound by the unyielding truth of God's faithfulness, and so came the day when the true test of faith would be unveiled, where mortal limits would be pushed against unearthly giants, and the very destiny of man intertwined with divine purpose. They stood on the precipice of a new tide, the hope that one could vanquish many a moment where the whispers of fear contended with the fierce resolve of belief, for as the clouds moved, so too did the plan of the Almighty, rolling steadily towards the triumphant revelation that awaited. The time would soon come, where they would behold the marvelous works of God, and through the crucible of this impending battle, joys unimaginable were prepared for those who would dare to trust in Him completely. And it came to pass that the sun began to rise upon the horizon, casting rays of light upon the trembling earth as the faithful gathered in the valley. Noah stood at the forefront, his heart steady with the resolve that the Almighty had instilled within him. The giants loomed menacingly across the field, their shadows darkening the sun's light, yet Noah's spirit burned bright with hope. "Fear not, for the Lord is with us," he called to his family and their gathered companions, their eyes wide with anticipation and trepidation. "He has not abandoned us in this hour of trial. We shall see the salvation of our God." The giants laughed with a thundering mockery that echoed through the valley, shaking the ground beneath their feet. "What hope do you have, children of men?" they jeered, their voices like storms crashing against the cliffs. "You are but dust. Can you stand against us?" Yet the faithful held their ground, emboldened by the spirit of the covenant. They prayed fervently, lifting their voices to the heavens, declaring the promises of God, voices uniting like a symphony against the tumult. "The Lord is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble." They cried out, invoking the name of the Almighty. Just then, as Noah raised his hands toward the sky, clouds gathered thickly above, swirling with divine fervor. An angelic presence descended among them, a radiant figure clad in unmistakable armor, bearing a sword that shimmered brighter than the dawning sun. "Go forth, children of the Most High." The figure called, and the gentle, yet powerful tenor echoed through the valley. "This battle belongs to the Lord, for He is your defender." In that moment, a fierce joy surged through Noah's heart, and he felt the assurance of victory swelling in their spirits. "Onward!" he bellowed. "Let us not waver. Our God goes before us in battle, and we shall not be shaken." With courage ignited, each family member linked arms with one another, a tapestry of faith woven in unity. Together they charged forward, hearts pounding, prayers upon their lips, and the cries of their forefathers stirring within them. As they closed the distance between themselves and the giants, the earth trembled beneath the weight of their belief. The giants roared again, bellowing curses and threats, yet the faithful pressed on, undeterred. A deep silence fell upon the valley, building suspense as each party faced the other, setting the stage for a monumental clash between doubt and faith. Suddenly, a voice thundered from the clouds above, reverberating through the air. "Behold!" it proclaimed, the sound like the rushing of many waters. "The champion has come." From among the clouds emerged the radiant figure, the promised deliverer, glistening in divine light. An awe-inspiring presence radiated from him, illuminating the battlefield with glory that blinded the eyes of those who stood against him. He bore a look of uncompromising strength, declaring dominion over all the earth. The giants faltered, their confidence shaken before the might of the champion's visage, yet the battle had only begun. As the two forces collided, giants snarling and the faithful lifting the praises of their God, a cacophony of chaos erupted, each sword drawn and each prayer lifted, intertwining in the tumult. "Stand firm," Noah exhorted. "The Lord is your strength. The eternal promise stands against every foe." As heaven and earth met above them, the ground shook with the power of the unseen. In the midst of the clash, faith ignited like fire as the loyal rallied under the champion's light. "Victory is ours, through him who fights for us," roared Noah, sensing the turning of the tide. As the fierce sounds of battle echoed across the land, a vivid memory crossed Noah's mind, the vision of the giants, once marked for terror, now faltering before the unwavering light of their God. It spoke of the ultimate truth. The shadows were no match for the brilliance of righteousness, and the promise of redemption surged like a river through the faithful. In that instant, Noah beheld the unfolding of God's sovereign plan, a tapestry of destiny woven amidst the struggle and strife. He realized that in every hardship, The essence of hope echoed beyond the darkness, calling forth a legacy of faith that would thrive even in the fiercest storms. The battle raged on, but with every passing moment, Noah knew that victory would not merely belong to them, it was a victory that belonged to the one who reigns eternally. And as the dust of conflict swirled around him, he awaited the culmination of this divine confrontation, knowing that the champion would rise triumphant, changing the course of history forever. Thus, in the midst of strife and resolve, the people echoed back to their covenant and prepared for the dawn of revelation. What would be the true form of victory, and how would God's plan unfold in the hearts of all generations? For a greater destiny awaited, echoing in the promise of redemption still yet to be revealed.